move by Washington illustrates the dilemma in dealing with a major regional ally that controls the strategic Suez Canal and borders Israel, but whose army overthrew the first freely elected president. Joining us via Skype from Washington, D.C. is Howard Gambrill Clark, president of the Stability Institute. Howard, it's good to talk to you.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You know, from a policy standpoint, how do you feel about this? There's a lot of criticism about this decision. I'm wondering, first of all, is it too little too late?
Well, it's largely symbolic. It's really not that much compared to about the $1.4 billion that Egypt is going to get in essential military aid by the end of the year. And that goes to counterterrorism programs that Egypt has. That goes to the guards on the border with Israel in the Sinai. That goes to training, and that goes to essential upkeep of equipment. All we're doing, or all that's being stated that we may do, meaning the administration, is to hold off on 12 Apache helicopters that were ordered back in 2009. Right now, that's really all that's on the table, and no decision has been made. It hasn't even gone to Congress yet. At this point, it's more symbolic than anything.
So then I wonder if there's anything to some of the other criticisms that I read today about this, is that it will decrease the U.S.'s influence in Egypt and perhaps even in the region. Is that overstated?
It will not decrease. I mean, the influence that the United States has in Egypt I mean, really, it really comes from the money that goes to the military. And the military has been in power. They were in power even when President Morsi was the president, allowed to be president. The power is held by well over 500,000 active duty members of the Egyptian military, all of whom know that if there is truly a democratic election, and if a Muslim brother were to come to power, that they may be brought to justice. And so it's not just their livelihoods they're concerned with, it's their actual lives, the lives of their families that they're concerned with. The Egyptian military has been in power since 1952. It hasn't let up its reign. There was an election. Morsi won a majority and then tried to sideline sort of secularists and the military back in. Really, there hasn't been much of a change as far as the political landscape of Egypt besides just window dressing. The policy the Obama administration has is the same policy we've had for about 30 years.
That being said, there is some truth that in many cases perception is reality. So I want to ask you a two-pronged question. And so how will this affect the U.S., the perception of the U.S., both by the many Egyptian citizens who are pro-Morsi supporters, as well as just Egyptian citizens in general?
That's a very interesting question. There's been the government has issued a lot of op-eds, editorials, and the Egyptian media has put a lot of information out that somehow the United States, and this is very illogical, is somehow behind the Muslim Brotherhood opposition and are pro-Morsi and want to see a unstable, destabilized Egypt. And so in many ways, the sort of anti-colonialism, anti-Western, anti-American sentiment, at least the government and the military, is trying to direct that against Muslim brothers.
And, you know, some have said that this void, and I understand that you're sort of downplaying it, that this is not very much, it's not a big deal, but some have said then that Egypt might turn to other countries for help, and they might be countries that are not our allies and perhaps our enemies. Is there a danger there? There
is. Certainly with just this being held back, the Apaches, if it's less than $2 million, I don't think there's a danger. Certainly during the Cold War, I mean, as soon as the free officers took over in 1952, the United States has always been trying to get, during the Cold War, trying to influence Egypt or have influence and relations with Egypt as opposed to the Soviet Union. And certainly Egypt could go to Russia. Certainly Egypt could go to China. They could go to strategic competitors. In the future, they could threaten to do that. I don't see that in the near future. Certainly not with holding a dozen Apache helicopters. That's not going to do the trick. No.
I wonder if this decision has any implications about how the U.S. feels about the military regime in general, and specifically the interim government that is there. Is this a vote of no confidence in some way?
No, absolutely not. I mean, again, they're still going to get the vast majority of that $1.3, $1.4 billion by the end of the the calendar year 2013. Egypt is, that is in military aid.
Oh, sure. And one final, go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, again, you know, the policy of the United States really hasn't changed in the last 30 years. I mean, we've been behind their military. We've been behind, and frankly, the government now in their crackdowns, killing hundreds of people, although morally reprehensible in historical sense and in historical view, is nothing compared to what Nasser did in 1954, nothing compared to what Mubarak did, where he made entire villages and towns worth of males disappear. You know, against not only the Muslim Brothers, but also some of the violent offshoots like the Egyptian Islamic Jihad.
Indeed. Howard Gambrill Clark, thank you so much for your time and perspective. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.